Habits. Are you also somebody who's struggling with habits? I'm a very good example of struggling with habits. How about you, Zafrana? Because we want to talk today about habits. As far as we know about
Mhm.
it, of course, there's always a lot more to tell about it, and everybody has a different meaning. But as you all know, this is Coach's Lounge number 5, and we are just talking about our experiences, our knowledge, and whatever we want to talk about it. So, Zafrana, you are always the great one looking things up. And so I give you the word to start.
Yeah. So habits is one of those things I think we all struggle with. We all have our bad habits. We all kind of watch Netflix for too long or scroll on our phones for too long. And it's one of those things that commonly people come to me with when I'm coaching, which is how can I stop these bad habits and switch it up for good, better habits? Because a lot of times it's these bad habits that we tend to engage in use a lot of our time. And suddenly we find that we don't have enough time to get everything that we wanted to get done. Like we don't find that time to read that book we were supposed to read, or kind of exercise is a very common one as well, or to cook a really good meal. And so it's that depletion that people are feeling from actually, I'm doing too much of this thing, which isn't really helping me. And then I'm not doing enough of this thing that I want to be doing. And I remember last thing at night before I sleep that, I wish I'd done this and I wish I'd done that, and I'm not. So that's what the topic is about today, how to create these better habits, and what's involved in that as well. What's your relationship like with habits, Carla?
Back and forth, back and forth. It's not always the best relationship that I have with habits. And as I figured, I was always asking myself, like, why can I not keep that easily new habits or transform things into habits? Some things it's easy, other things it's not. And I figured out lately that I probably might have ADD already my whole life, and that figured out a lot. So it's also, I think it's nice to talk about how do we experience and what can we accept or not accept in having bad and of course our good habits as well. So yeah, I'm coming a long way with habits, and I'm doing a lot better since I'm using techniques, etc. But in underneath, it's a lot of times a challenge for me. It stays a
Yeah,
challenge, but now I understand it better. Yeah.
definitely. I mean, I definitely struggle to maintain all good habits. There'll be bouts, I'll have times where I'm like, I have good reminders set out, and I think when I commit to it properly, like I make a decision in the morning that no matter what, I'm going to get this done, and I get it done. I guess it's usually a lot to do with my routine as well. I have young children, so sometimes when the routine is broken, like maybe it's the summer holiday, so the kids are around all the time, and I find that it just falls to the wayside. It falls to the side, like suddenly that habit where I was eating really well, it just is gone. And it's because I'm not becoming conscious about it as well. So I think when you decide that you want to do something new in your routine and you want to incorporate a good habit, such as say exercising or eating more fruit or something like that, it's always done consciously to begin with, and it has to be done on purpose, and a decision has to be made. There has to be an actual, like, I find very it's very useful to plan my day. Like I often write in a diary just like things I need to get done, and
Hmm.
I'll add in meditation or exercise. And the more you plan it out and you know I'm going to do it at this time on this day straight after doing this other thing, it's much easier to do it. Whereas if I just randomly write exercise or exercise 3 times this week, it's too vague. And this is what I find, that the more vague you are, the less likely you are going to do it. And when you say something like, I'm going to eat healthy, but you haven't actually said what you're going to eat, again, it's so much harder to follow through with it. So that's one of the things I will start with, which is how precisely can you plan around these new routines and new habits?
Well, I wouldn't like to start with it. I would like to end with that as tips. How do you change it?
Mm.
I think it's for me, if you agree, to first look how do we get to certain habits? Where do they come
Okay.
from, our habits? So we understand a little bit more about how does that work with habits in the brain, in our body, in our daily life. And is that okay with you to start with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, great. The habits, a lot of habits are either we learn them from looking around, from our parents, the school, the people around us. Everything that is normal, that what we see a lot is what we take in as being normal and being becomes a habit that way. The other reason for a lot of habits are our beliefs. Either they are conscious or they are unconscious. And as you know, like 90% is unconscious. And they are set already in our DNA. And they got confirmed with living by our teachers, by our parents, our whole
Mhm.
social network. They start with beliefs in the DNA, and if there's a certain belief, let's say the belief of I don't deserve to live, which a lot of people have as a unconscious belief. I don't deserve to live, then you are going into the habit of not being seen. So your whole behavior is around that you kind of duck under. You're not going to speak up. You're not going to come with ideas even if you have them. You're not going to go in front to tell something. A lot of those kind of behaviors are from that belief. And because you repeat it and repeat it, that's where it becomes a habit, because in the brain, you're making these neural pathways that are actually like an automated highway. And I always tell my
Mm.
clients, oh, yeah, on this habit, you have like a 40 wide road of highway road. Nice language, this. But you know what I mean with that. And it's you have to get off those 40 roads and make a very small road to start that new habit. But first, you have to understand what that you have the habit.
Mm.
And that's how do we get to know that we have habits? Because we do something we don't like, or somebody says something about how we do it and they don't like it, and we don't like it if somebody else. We're going to have an extra person here, living creature with us today.
Carla has a
um,
cat just kind of
yes,
crawling around,
it's in my way. I thought I'm
walking
going to
around.
go downstairs, but it's not really working really great, but oh well. But yeah, we always want to be, how do you say that people think we are okay. So we intend to change our habits for other people. What you see a lot with relationships, what you see with kids who want to be liked by the teacher or by a certain other kid. So they change their habits, they change themselves.
Mm.
That's also, there's fear underneath, there is not knowing underneath, there's can be so many things underneath why we have a habit and why we keep it.
Yeah. So I guess what we can take from that is that if you want to change your habits, find the belief that's supporting the original habit, which was the bad habit to begin with. So it'd be something like if you don't believe that you can ever be really fit and strong, you're gonna, that's a belief you have that I can never be as fit as strong as someone else. And then the kind of the habits are what reinforce your belief, which is that you end up not exercising as much because you don't believe there's any point. So
Yep.
I'd agree with that, which is if you're not doing what you want to do, go back to your habits. Where's this coming from, and what belief is supporting your current habit, which is keeping you stuck effectively? So yeah, I'd agree with that one. And like you were saying, a lot of it is subconscious. So people won't know it's there
Yeah.
until they start to really look at it. And the only way you know it's there is from the way you're showing up. So your actions, that's how we get down to it. Because when we really question, and with coaching, this is what happens, we question, why are you doing this? Like, what's bringing this on? And people have never been questioned, or they've always got defensive in the past, but we know
Yeah.
how to get around that. And suddenly they're exposed, and the truth is they don't believe that they are that kind of person. And it's very shocking for people when they first discover that. And they're like, what? Like, no, because we can consciously say, yeah, of course I can do it. But deep down, our subconscious doesn't believe it. It's very hard to maintain a new habit if you don't believe you're that type of person.
Well, it's also very hard to maintain a new habit if you have the belief that it's very hard to maintain a new habit.
Yes. All of this adds in. You can see why it's even harder. Like you're like, oh, it's hard. Yes.
Yep.
And that's why your language can come in very much as well. Like if you keep saying it's really hard to exercise, it's really hard to eat
Yeah.
well, you're reinforcing again that same pattern. So you can shift that. You can be like, I'm going to make it as easy as possible for myself by having maybe a meal plan or doing the same exercises on each day. So you're not looking for a new routine, or by joining a class. So you can actually tell yourself a different story.
That's
But
where
yeah,
it
that's a
starts
really
with.
good point.
I think that's where it
Yeah.
starts with, because I that's what my clients always get crazy about me, or crazy with me, that they say like, "Oh gosh, that's so hard," and I always go like, "What?" And I say, "Oh, it's so hard." She goes, "Like, what?" And then suddenly it goes like, "Oh yeah, it's a great challenge," because a lot of times they
Change it.
already see it. Say, "Oh, it's a challenge," and you see, I mean, look at the face. Oh, it's a challenge. That's also a negative thing. So I always say like, make it a great challenge or a nice challenge that makes in your whole feeling a totally different thing. And since our brain wants to have this good feeling, make it say something that gives you that good feeling, even if you know in the beginning it's fake.
Mm.
Let's, for example, the habit of a client of mine. She had the habit, actually, it was a problem, that she was like 34 around, and but she had never slept a whole night. So she was totally, her habit was like during the day, be busy, but also be busy in the mind with, oh, I'm looking really not looking forward to tonight because I'm going to lay awake again and I'm going to wake up 20 times and blah, blah. And
Mhm.
so she did things that she would really be tired, knowing it wouldn't help. And her whole mind was like, oh, it's not going to work. I can't sleep, everything. And then we started working with that, also using the heart coherence, but especially also with the brain. So I had her made up a affirmation that she would sleep really great, that she was looking forward to tonight, and she would fall asleep within 10 minutes and she would sleep all night long. And she looked at me like, you're crazy. That's never going
Mm.
to happen. I said, just say it. Your brain is not going to believe you in the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's going to pop up all kind of thoughts that are going to say like, oh, it's stupid. It's never going to work. I mean, your brain is going to like knick-knack you completely. But eventually, if you keep saying it and you visualize the feeling that you would have if you sleep, if you sleep nice, then at one point this brain is gonna doubt the whole thing instead of like no, it's gonna say like maybe it's true. And then if you still keep doing that, and I'm talking about really an effort of hundreds times a day, you have to do that, because the more
Mm.
you say it, the more the connections, the neural pathways are made. And then slowly it will turn, and within 2 weeks she slept.
Amazing.
That was really amazing. And she told me later on, it's like, Carly, you were totally right. I did not believe one bit of it in the beginning. I heard my brain saying, like, no, stupid, blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, she did feel that change. Like, hey, the brain was starting to ask questions and doubting. And then it was more and more flip flopping to the other side. And then eventually it was like, yeah, of course I'm going to sleep tonight. Of course I'm going to fall asleep easy and I'm going to sleep the whole night through. And that's just
Yeah.
because you're programming, reprogramming your brain. So
Hmm.
if you have a habit that you really want to change, you have to reprogram. And even, are you going to visit to have visitors
Mom,
as well?
Mom,
Can we just pause a second?
why is it in the box?
The other thing that people often say is they put it in their calendar. They're like, yep, I'm going to definitely exercise. And they put it in 3 days a week. And then when it comes down to it, they say, I don't feel like it. And they find that they actually follow through on that. They're like, well, I don't feel like it. So I'm just not going to do it now. And this is a really common thing that I hear. My answer to this is don't rely on your feelings so much, because your feelings come from that reptilian side of your brain that just wants to seek comfort and kind of have pleasure, avoid discomfort, and make life as easy as possible. So as soon as you don't feel like it, it's coming from that side of you. I call it the monkey brain, which is just it's
Yeah.
going to keep you like fat and sitting doing nothing effectively. It's going to keep you safe though, but it's not going to move you forward. So what I challenge it with is like you made a plan, and you didn't make a plan with that monkey side of your brain. You made it with your frontal cortex, that thinking, planning side of the brain, which is right at the front here. And it's like you just the cost of kind of going through with a habit and following through on a habit is overcoming that initial discomfort. Because when you don't feel like it, it starts to feel like icky inside your body. You're like, oh, I just really don't want to. And this other thing feels much more enticing and relaxing. So it's almost like you're predicting something very uncomfortable with
Yes.
the habit. And like you were saying, it's very hard to form a new habit. So you might do it once or twice or three times. And then the fourth or fifth, you're like, oh, really, this again? You don't feel like doing it anymore, even though it'll make you feel good afterwards.
Yeah.
Suddenly your brain tricks you. It starts to only focus on the right now. So this is one of the biggest problems of the brain. It focuses on short-term comfort over
Yeah.
longer-term gains. So if you can get over that hump of I don't feel like it and say, hey, I committed to this and I'm going to get up, even though it feels really, really uncomfortable. And that's the thing, a lot of habit formation is around avoiding feelings, that avoiding. So sometimes it might be like getting on with that kind of new essay or that kind of that difficult thing, that book you might be writing, and you're thinking, oh, you perceive it as it's going to be difficult or hard or take a lot of energy. And then the monkey brain's like, hey, I've got something easy you can do. You can go watch a whole series on Netflix and it takes zero energy. You're like, ah, yes, sounds great. Let's do that instead. And it convinces you because it goes by your feelings, like those emotions. And the more you listen to them, the more you're going to head down where you don't want to be. And it's fine. You could do that sometimes. And if you plan for some downtime, go for it. Watch Netflix all you want. But if it's going into your work time or that time that you're supposed to be doing that new habit and really creating this other version of you, and if it's stopping that, that's where you have to consciously go in and say, it doesn't matter how I feel in this small moment, because I'm thinking of the longer term. And that's the big thing.
Yeah, and the realize it's actually a fake feeling because it's a feeling which the brain kind of creates because the brain wants to stay safe. And safe is doing what it always did. That's
Mm.
what the brain is safe with because that's the path it knows. So as soon as the brain goes like, no, that is weird, that is new, I don't know that, it creates automatically, because that's a thought, it creates automatically this negative feeling. So it's actually not the real feeling with what you want. And so by changing the feeling as well, And you can easily do that with either a hard coherence exercise or with taking another like 20 seconds before actually going into the bad habit. Take like 20-30 seconds and tell yourself you are feeling great with doing this new habit. That way, by telling it, it's just sort of visualizing that that better feeling about it will be able to sink in more. And that's where it's easier to let Netflix go. So wait those 30 seconds, create this new feeling, visualize it, and go with, yes, what you said, the uncomfortable feeling if it's still there, because knowing it's a fake uncomfortable feeling makes it easier to really go for the new habit. Because there, that's where you said in the prefrontal cortex, that's where you created it, knowing that if you do that, it will lead to better things, nicer things, good feelings, etc. Your brain is just not there yet, and the feelings with that.
Not there. I mean, it's the thing is, it doesn't feel fake at all. The feeling is so real because you really, in that moment, you really, really do not want to do it. Like you suddenly feel lethargic. You'll start to feel all these other feelings. The brain builds it on top. It really wants to keep you not from doing that new habit. Like you said, a lot of it is it knows the path it's on. It knows what the outcome will be if you stay on this current path. It doesn't know what the outcome will be if you keep on this exercise regime and get really fit and look amazing. And it's like, oh, I can't predict what's going to happen. It almost like, and some people have an aversion to success with this as well, where, wow, imagine if I was that person, and then what would be expected of me? So some people, there's an expectation that I don't know how to handle this other thing, or if I was really successful in some way, suppose I kept getting promoted in my job because I keep working hard and putting my time into those things that really matter. What's next? So the brain almost wants to stop you becoming too successful as well. It's like, oh no, because I don't know it. Not that it's not a good thing. It probably really is, but the brain hasn't got used to it or has never experienced that before. So it's like, stay this way, and that's what you mean by fake feeling, where it's just a falsehood. Like, yeah, stay this way.
Yeah, and that's what I said. Those are the stories that we are making up, that the brain is going to make up. These are all these hang on changing. And with the success, like you said, like, oh gosh, yeah, but when you're successful, you have to be more professional. You have to work harder. You have to stay up high. People are going to tell you're bad because successful people, a lot of people don't like successful people. Now, so we are making right away all these new stories why we should not be successful. And that is the mind fuck, I always call it, of your brain trying to prevent you from changing the old habit into a new one. It's all mind fuck. And with the mind fuck comes the feel fuck. That's a new word, but I like it though. The mind fuck leads to the fuck. It's all not real. So if you can, what I ask people, like I call it the dream scenario. I asked them to write down their dream scenario. What do you want with privately, relationships, work, blah blah blah, the whole thing, and go and feel if you are there. How does that feel? So you're just busy with that part, so that you really get the feeling as well, and which is usually then a good feeling because that's what you want, that's what you created as a dream. So when you are in the middle of this habit change and you have this mind fuck and you start feeling bad, see if you can step forward to that good feeling if you would have changed the whole thing, and see what happens. Which of the two does feel better? So which of the two do you want to go to? So there are all different kind of ways to go around with that. And of course, I don't have not all the knowledge in me. I just have a few of that, and so I'm really inviting people, if they have more ways, tips, whatever, just write them underneath here, and help other people with that. So I'm really happy if you would do that. I can learn a lot from everybody listening to this as well. So
Yeah.
we're here with
Well,
what we know.
with any habit that you're creating, there's 3 R's that really support this. So number one is a reminder. That's the first R. So something to remind you to do it. So it's easier if you tie it on to something you already do every day. So something like brushing your teeth, you do that every day anyway. And then you're like, okay, straight after I brush my teeth, then I'm going to start my evening routine or start that meditation practice. So something like that makes it easier. Or if you have a cup of tea at a set time in the day, you're like, okay, as soon as I know I've turned that kettle on, I'm going to start this other habit. So it's something to remind you. And like, it might even be something else. Like you might keep a few paper clips on the table, like maybe 3 or 4 that you're supposed to get done in that day. And as you do them, you can kind of move them to the other side of the table. That's like the done side. So something to like, when you see it, it reminds your brain and gives that little jog that I've got to get that done. Because out of sight is out of mind. You know, you're not going to find those things to do if nothing is there to just trigger that reminder that I have to do it. Then there's the routine itself where you do the thing you're supposed to do. And often you'll got that negative feeling before doing it because it's new, because it feels hard, as we were saying earlier on. And so then the third R, so there's a reminder, routine, and the final thing is the reward. Find something to reward yourself with, but don't make that reward negative. Don't reward yourself with a donut, is what I say. It
Well,
might just be like, yeah,
you can reward
something
yourself with,
positive.
after you've done it, go watch Netflix. If that's
You
what you want.
can.
Yeah, make
That's a
that your
great
reward.
one.
Yeah.
Or you can, your reward sometimes is that feeling of amazing, like amazement after doing exercise. You know, the reward is the high that you get after it. But a lot of it is acknowledging that I did this thing and I'm a person that can do these things. So it's kind of really making it part of your new identity. So rewarding your ego, shall we say, with like, well done, you did this, you know? And maybe after like you've done it for a certain amount of weeks, you can give yourself a slightly bigger reward. Maybe go out for a very nice meal, or you know, even go get a massage or something to reward yourself, to then help to
Yes.
reinforce the habit. Be like, oh, I can get more of this stuff if I keep doing this. You know, so you can create your own reward, because the reason we stay in bad habits is there is a dopamine hit with our bad habits. So you know, like if we're watching Netflix and something exciting is happening in the show, we get dopamine straight away. When we kind of give into our urges, there's like a, oh yes, I didn't, you know, like it's one of those things, there's a reward of dopamine, and it's a very strong reaction our body has naturally to keep that monkey brain going. So to overcome that, you need to come up with your new rewards and be very conscious about it.
Yeah, there's another thing I realize now, and that's the opposite of the reward, pain. We
Mm,
always want to stay away from pain. And I remember a couple of years ago, I was in a coaching group myself, and there was something, it had to do with my website. I don't even recall exactly what it was, but I knew it was something that I found really difficult to do. And so what I did was I did set a date then and then. I have to be ready with this. I need to have that and that done, because I was putting it off all the time, real procrastinating that. And so what if we decided, if I would not have it ready, it was a group of like 5 or 6 women, I would have to pay for a total evening out, dinner and going out. That would cost me a fortune, because I knew they all had pretty high taste when it comes down to meals and stuff like that. So to prevent the pain from having to pay so much money made me
yes.
really, I mean, I was done. I had done everything to make sure I did it. And I felt so proud of that. I was so happy I did not have to pay it, and that I could write these all these women like, oh, see there, you can see it there, and I mean, it was basically a reward, but it started with the reward of not feeling pain, and it ended
Yes.
with the reward of feeling great. I hadn't
Yes.
expected that it would turn around that way. But so that's also what some people do to prevent pain. So they set a certain, what do you call that in English, thing that if they did not do it, it would hurt them. It would give that
Yes.
feeling, that very, very, very uncomfortable feeling, even worse than the uncomfortable feeling of not doing it. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
That's a
that's
great way
another
of
way going around.
motivating.
Yeah. But they're both. I mean, that's how, I mean, you have to figure out for yourself which one is working. And if one doesn't work, try another way to do it.
Yes.
And if that doesn't work, another one, because we are all different and we need different solutions as well. So try to find in all that you heard already, what is your way of changing those habits, because we all can do it. I'm living proof of that.
Yeah, me too. Like, I think you're right. It depends on what pattern you have. So some people do things because they want to avoid something. So that's like an away pattern. They're like, well, if I do this, I don't have to, I get to avoid this negative feeling or this negative conversation. So it's like great. And other people have a toward pattern where it's like, if I do this, I get to get this great thing. So it's a toward or away, which is the same as like, if the reward doesn't entice you enough, find a pain point to yeah, convince
Yeah.
yourself to do it and tell people about it. The more people you
Yes.
tell, the more there's the pain of that, like, oh gosh, I haven't done it, and people are going to ask me about it. So just having like someone you do these new habits with often reinforces that good habit
Yes.
in and of itself.
like like
But
doing like doing podcasting here with you.
yes, you're my buddy that does it with me. It makes it more fun, it makes it lighter, we get to share the load. It is fun
But you,
actually.
like, I hope you don't mind me saying it. But you said already, like, if I have to do it by myself, I'm not going to do it. But since we're doing it together, I do it, and I want to do it. So you're living
Yes.
proof of that. Great, I love it.
That's a great example. Go do it with a friend. You know, if you're finding marketing
Yes,
difficult or writing something difficult, go find a friend to do it with. And, you know, I met
yeah,
Carla online and we speak regularly anyway now. And it's all just from meeting you online because we don't live in the same country. And people say, oh, I don't know where I'm going to find these people. Oh, they're all over the place. Yeah. Find them on the internet if nothing else. But there's local groups you
yeah,
can join if you want it to be more face to face. There's so many options, but
yeah.
it definitely is finding your how, you know, your how, that what's going to motivate you to do this. Is it pain or is
Yes,
it pleasure? And being so conscious about it is probably the final thing to say. Be so conscious that I've said I'm going to do this, and it doesn't matter how I'm feeling around it, I'm still going to do it no matter what. I'm going to commit to it.
yes,
And that's what it comes down to sometimes, that commitment. But also not being so black and white with it. Some people are like, well, I ate one muffin, chocolate muffin, and I was on a diet. So forget it now. I'll just forget the whole thing.
a
It's
lot of
like
people, yeah, do
being
that.
having that compassion with yourself in the middle. It's okay if you missed a day. Don't make that mean you failed and that's it, this stop the whole thing. You can continue with your good habit in little steps. You're not a perfect robot, you know. That's what I would add as well. Don't just give up because of one little hiccup.
Yep. And another way, reason why you would should basically tell other people about it. It's not only that they keep you accountable, but they also give a lot of support. And the
Yes.
support is also, that's what I really, my experience is, the support is so great then. The rewards they give you because they're supporting you, because they know things are difficult or that you're trying, things like that. And it's also there where you have it a difficult moment, you can ask them for help. Ask help for that.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it by yourself.
Yeah.
I think
You
having
don't have
said
to do
that,
it
I
by
think,
yourself.
is that all that we wanted to say today, Zafrana?
Yeah, like you don't, it's a lot of like, a lot of people think they have to do it all alone.
Yeah.
And it just feels like climbing a mountain by yourself. But anyone who climbs a mountain, they have a little team around them, just that person to give them that pep talk right when they needed it. And it doesn't even have to be people. It could be like your favorite podcast you listen to feel more motivated, or kind of going and doing your favorite thing, like going for a run, and just because that's what builds you up, or whatever it is, something that makes you feel good. Like make
Yeah.
it more fun for yourself rather than being like, gotta create that habit now. Oh, the more difficult you make it, like the more negative energy you have around it, the less likely you're going to complete it. Whereas if you add a little bit of fun, a little lightness to it, it's much easier to keep going and overcome the stumbling blocks that you come along the way. That's what makes it easier and lighter. And don't forget to reward yourself. It's like create that conscious reward. But yeah, I'd say that's our habits.
Yeah. So I think we already gave a lot of tips, and see what you do with it. Let us know if it helped you, if it did not help you, if you have extra tips you want other people know about. And we'll see you next time. We don't know which subject that will be, or we did know because Jessica would be there. We had a subject. She
Oh,
couldn't be there
yes. That was
today.
on manifesting next week, actually.
Manifesting.
A
Yep,
juicy topic, very juicy. So join us next week for that. We
definitely.
look forward to it. It'll be all three of us next week. So that will be fun. Until then, enjoy your evening or whatever time of day it is. And see you next time. Bye.
Namaste. Bye.